Hello everybody, this is Le Minimum Lovable Product. I am Marco Lanzi and I'm about to bring you behind the scenes of building digital experiences that people will love. In the episode of today, Sophie Smallwood, co-founder and co-CEO at Roleshare, a marketplace bringing role sharing to all companies, is going to explain us what is role sharing, how do you get the idea for a startup, and how do you tap into more diversified talents with flexibility. Let's welcome Sophie. Welcome everyone to Le MLVP. We are here today with Sophie Smallwood, co-founder and co-CEO of Roleshare. So welcome, Sophie.
Hey, Marco, really good to be here.
So first things first, Sophie, Roleshare. I know you also guys just raised pre-seed money to create a global Roleshare marketplace. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? What is it and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, sure. So, we are a talent marketplace that brings professionals together who seek to work flexibly, and we enable them to co apply for full time jobs together.
Okay, so basically you need to find someone from which you're going to apply, or like I see a role on which I want to apply but maybe I don't have the enough time to do it, and you guys find my soulmate or job soulmate.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like dating meets job searching, if you will, right? So, in essence, we enable people to find these types of working arrangements that are shared working arrangements in different ways, right? So, historically, when people have shared roles, it's been someone who is already working at a company and that person enters a transition point. It could be that they're having their first child, or perhaps they're going through some kind of a physical ailment, or maybe they want to go back to school and get their master's degree, or maybe learn some totally different skills, right? Because they're tired of the job that they're doing. It might be also that they just want to have some time for themselves. Hey, like what's wrong with that? After you've worked for 20 years, what's wrong with working 2 or 3 days a week? But what happens is that people don't want to give up on what they've achieved, right?
Clear.
And so they are passionate about their careers. It's a big part of their self identity. And so people in all of those different use cases can come onto our platform and they can look for other people who also are going through those transitions, who are genuinely motivated to work this way. They can meet on our platform. And then from that, we match them on our platform. We're a technology platform and a marketplace in one, if you will. And once they match individuals, they can shortlist people that they'd like to work with, have a coffee, Zoom, do some exercises together to determine whether or not you could share or work together. If so, how would you split the role? All sorts of different things that, we help them to figure out through the process. And then on the other side of it, we work with companies to list roles that are shareable. And so companies list roles that are normally and historically have only been available to people to do alone. And we now say, hey, why don't you open it up to this new class of talent, part timers who'd want to actually be doing the job of a full timer together. And so, generally, broadly speaking, that's how it works. And we also enable people who are working at companies today who maybe want to scope out to see if there's interest out there in their own job. They can actually put their job out on the marketplace in the form of their profile and or as an actual job post. So we have different ways of entry into the platform today.
Okay, no, nice. Thanks a lot for sharing that. And one question, so how did you get to that idea? You woke up one day and say, hey, I want to road share, or
No, no. So actually, I came across this idea when I was working in Los Angeles, even before you and I initially met, Marco. I was in advertising before I started at for eBay, and when I was working in advertising, I volunteered once a week, did community service, and I met a woman who was very senior, more senior than I was at that point in my career. And she had young twins, and she and I volunteered together once a week. And I remember asking her, wow, how do you find time to volunteer in a director level role in advertising? You've got young twins, and now you're also volunteering. And I will never forget, she said to me, oh, I'm so lucky. I share my job. And I was like, what is that? And that's how it initially came up. That's the way I discovered this idea. And then years later, when I was working at Facebook, And I entered a major transition in my life as a first time parent. I started to think about how I would do the juggle of being an A player at work, but then also an A player parent. Both are important to me, and I
Mhm.
didn't want to fail in either role. And I actually looked into part time roles, but was extremely disappointed as far as the level of the roles, the strategic impact of the roles. Um, I felt like they were quite limited in scope and or just generally like functions. And I thought, well, why can't I share my role? Surely there's got to be a place where I can go and find people to share a job with. So I started searching for that. But when I needed Roleshare, it wasn't there. It didn't exist. It was quite ad hoc and very rinky dink at the time. And so anyway, my partner, who is also my husband, and I decided to, in essence, build Roleshare at that moment. It wasn't overnight, but we started the process and we decided to bring this age old constructs of jobs, one person, one job into the modern sharing economy. And then the rest is history.
Okay, no, nice. So it started from what I understand from a real need, something that you were
Yeah,
there in the market, something that somehow was existing already, but not at scale. So
exactly.
indeed, if you look in the market today, part-time job are usually like, let's say, lower level in the hierarchy kind of job.
Exactly.
And I agree with you when you say like, hey, I build this like with a lot of sacrifice. I grow experience, knowledge, network of people. Why should I give up just because I cannot devote myself 100% to it?
Right. Why is full time? I started to really think about this when I was faced with it. Why is full time the number one requirement? Why aren't we just looking for the best people? And if people are happy to team up together to share the job, and ultimately it's the ultimate allyship. It's like Olympic relay athletes together racing toward the finish line and handing the baton measured together. It's a really good incentive, right, to perform well. And so I started to question a lot as far as like the age old construct of jobs, which was manufactured, around the, the Ford company sort of coming into play, expecting people to work 8 to 9, Monday to Friday. It's just the world is changing. Why are we still working the way of the past?
Yeah, no, I think it's super powerful, especially in today world where flexibility we got a all different to a all different level, and now probably to a all different meaning. Think like location, timing, boundaries are just not there anymore. Especially, let's say, in the
Mm,
digital world we live in. For some, let's say, for some kind of jobs, for sure, like
yeah,
location base is still necessary, certain time frames are still necessary. In the digital or information world, not really. And if I understand correctly, flexibility is definitely one of the key thing that actually push you to look for
100%.
creating actually role share. And
And just
yeah,
on that point,
sure.
really quickly, so historically, when the sectors where role sharing was more prominent historically, um, were teaching, that happened in person, healthcare, that happened in person, government, that happened in person. And actually, they did it because there was a need. They were, it was hard to find talent, right? Like, so they really wanted to find talent. There was a time when, like, there was a shortage in good teachers when I was at university. And, and so now there's a paradigm shift in that the corporate sector is now rethinking about how do they keep their talent, right? In this changing landscape where we're moving toward almost a self-led employee workforce, right? Where the majority of employees by 2027, and I should rephrase that, the majority of the workforce, knowledge workforce, will be freelancing. What does that mean to a company when they might only have access to half of the workforce that they were used to getting access to before?
No, indeed, I never thought about it. But if you think about it, like, hey, I'm a part-time teacher, I'm a part-time doctor, it's a totally normal sentence. I'm a part-time director. It it sounds kind of weird to me.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's definitely something. And with the scarcity of, let's say, resources which are available, as you were pointing out, something needs to change. Something needs to change.
Yeah, and also more companies are under the radar for, great, in essence, enabling greater gender representation up the ranks, and also being under review for diversity scores. And it's something that companies are now gaining a lot more pressure to action, and there are solutions out there to enable them, to support them. And obviously, role sharing is one that in the past was difficult to achieve, but now with our technology we can help companies enable it at scale.
No, that's super cool. But let me ask you one thing. Say
Yeah.
today people are struggling even to work in the same team. How do
Hmm.
you convince someone that they are good to share a role?
Yeah, that's a valid question. So one, I will say that it's not for everyone, right? So just like freelance isn't for everyone, just like gig working isn't for everyone, sharing a role isn't for everyone. And actually, people who share roles have a lot of the desirable soft skills that we need in the future of work. It's all about collaboration, teamwork, flexibility. Um, those are a lot of the desirable skills in the future as far as like our human soft skills. And when people work together in a role share, there's a genuine motivation to work this way, right? They want to do it because one, they want the meaningful, impactful, strategic, or senior role, but they have an also, right? They also have kids, or they also want to study, or they also want to look after their health. All those things we talked about before. And those are genuine motivations. But they also are very ambitious, and they also really want to work hard, and they also really want to belong to a company, right? And they also want to have full access to the company, which oftentimes you don't have when you're freelancing, right? You've got to work harder to actually like be successful in your job as a freelancer just because of the limits of what you can access within a company. And so those motivations mean that people put their ego aside when they work together. And they actually are performing together as a unit, as a team. They're measured together. They are much more transparent with each other, with feedback. And that they have a weekly handover. And that weekly handover means that actually on an individual basis, they are performing better because they know that there's going to be somebody every week that will have a look at how much work they've actually achieved. How well was it done? Was the ball dropped? And the other person will hold them accountable because it's their performance review on the line as well. And everyone knows that. It really is that, like I said before, like having Olympic athletes from a relay, trial together on your team. And that social contract naturally increases the performance of the individual.
Okay, no, no, that's super powerful, and I think also, as you were saying, like if people put their ego aside, that's
Yes.
probably the first requirement to work well in a team. This team being a two-person sharing a role, or actually multiple people working together, and
Hmm.
as you said, like also that keeping each other accountable, I think is also super powerful because now you're not just working for you and your own results, but you own it to someone
Mm.
that got into this journey for you. The relay I think analogy is really good, even if I will not do it between Italy and UK because apparently it works better for the Italian side, at least in the last year. But one question, like when you were also saying, like say people go there because they want flexibility, so they
Hmm.
have something that they want to achieve, and therefore they put the ego aside. But if you look the other side of the medal, it's not just the people, it's also the corporation that needs to be open minded to accept that people can share a role. How do you see corporation actually acting in this change of shifting, let's say, part of the management or part of the ownership of the decision to the employee, which in this case say like, hey, by the way, I want this role to divide it into two.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, The good news is we're not inventing a way of working. So a growing number of the world's companies are offering job sharing,
Okay.
and it's gone up 15% since 2019. So it's on the rise. That's a positive trend. You're absolutely right, though. There's definitely a mindset, cultural element to this, and it isn't for all companies. But it's surprising because a lot of the companies that we've been working with are actually, um, you might be surprised, right? They're not necessarily the sexiest, like, the big tech companies yet, though we're talking to those as well. But it's more about, you know, survival. The legacy companies know what it takes to survive. They've been around a long time. They know what it takes to adapt and to continue to operate. And so they're open. They're open to new ways of
Okay.
working. They're also are sophisticated. Like they know how to do HR, and um and so they are open minded. And the challenge ultimately is in getting the right stakeholders and the right role models within the organization to communicate why they're enabling this way of working and that it is part of their general ethos.
Okay.
So we're finding companies absolutely interested in this way of working. Many have done it before, just didn't do it successfully because they didn't have the right technology partners. They also didn't have the right enterprise communication tools. And we are in a position now with the changing landscape of work where enterprise communication tools like Slack and Workplace and Teams have enabled people to really work differently, asynchronously, across borders, fully distributed, um, you know, and this means that actually working in a shared environment is just simplified now because of these advances in other enterprise technology communication tools.
Now,
So companies are aware of that.
no, no, really true. So what I hear is like the needs is definitely there. No, I think no, no surprises in here. The offering is somehow is also there. There is just like something to be better structured, to be the better shape to get these two side of the medal to come together. But hey, we have company like yours that is actually are there to help us out on this.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to remove luck from the equation and trying to enable the successful foundation of these sharing arrangements so that ultimately we can prove in time that in companies when employees share roles, they're equally effective and successful, if not more.
Okay, no, no, really looking forward for that. And wrap up question as we approach our time. So for sure, opening up the flexibility, opening up different way of working is you guys are probably also allowing the companies actually to tap into some uh, new cluster or actually unlooked clusters of different talent that are being
Mhm.
overlooked because they cannot commit full time, they cannot commit for that location. So, do you what do you see in that area? Is that more like an appealing from these people? Is more an appealing from company that actually now have access to more and diverse resource
Mm.
most of all? What do you see in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. When companies work with us, they very quickly realize that actually, by using our platform, not only can they retain their top talent who might be at risk of churn, um, because you could very easily conclude that if someone starts to share a job, it's likely that they were either going to ask to work part time, and that's probably unlikely within the company because it's a full time type job, or they weren't going to say anything and they would have just left. So it is a retention mechanism. On the flip side, also, it is absolutely a way to attract a new and activate a new class of talent. So people who want to work this way are looking for part time. They would like to work part time. They're not necessarily looking for full time jobs, right?
Yeah.
And so now, by enabling this way of working, companies can actually uh, put themselves forward to those candidates who otherwise wouldn't have come across those full time jobs before.
Okay, no, no, that's awesome. I can totally see the need. I have a couple probably of people to think of. I might send them your way. So no, I think that's great. So I think our time is up for today, Sophie. But thanks a lot for sharing. Been like a pleasure, having you here to share your knowledge about role sharing and actually what it means in the industry. So looking forward actually to see how this evolve in the coming months.
Thanks, Marco.
Cool. Thanks a lot. See you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're keen to leave a review or subscribe, it helps more than you know. I hope to see you soon in the next episode. Stay tuned.